Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to SDG Success Stories in the United States. My name is Osei Oregon. My pronouns are they, them, theirs, and I'll be the moderator for this discussion. I am a Global Goals Ambassador with the UNA USA, and I represent SDG 10, which is Reduced Inequalities. I'm so excited to invite A.Y. Young, David Hawley, and Nicole Butterfield to have a conversation today about how the Sustainable Development Goals present themselves on the local level, in the community, and on the international level. So today we're going to start our conversation with a presentation from Nicole Butterfield, who is an advocate for CEDAW and the coordinator for Cities for CEDAW with the UNA Westchester chapter. Hi, Nicole.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Fine, thank you.
I'm so excited to hear your presentation.
Thanks so much. I'm ready to roll.
Awesome. Take it away.
Well, hello, and thank you all for being here today. So my name is Nicole Butterfield, and I'm honored to serve on the board of UNA Westchester in New York. And I got involved with the UNA because I'm a healthy relationships advocate and educator, and I wanted to support the UN's work on behalf of women and girls. I'm eager to talk to you today about a passion of mine and a strong focus of UNA Westchester. It's known as CEDAW, the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. And before you leave today, I hope you'll be motivated to engage with us and help support the movement to ratify CEDAW at the international, national, and local levels. I came of age in the 1980s near Boston, Massachusetts. Yet despite my privileged upbringing and the groundbreaking work of the women's rights movement led by my mother's generation, I have experienced gender discrimination throughout my life, and I survived intimate partner violence during my teenage years. So CEDAW is not an abstract idea to me, it's real. And now, watching young people come of age in a world where far too many women and girls still face gender discrimination and abuse, I feel compelled to act on their behalf. CEDAW is not new. In fact, it was developed over 3 decades by the Commission on the Status of Women, and it was adopted in 1979 by the UN. Nearly all UN member nations have ratified or acceded to it. The United States is one of only 6 member nations that have not ratified CEDAW, along with Iran, Sudan, Somalia, Palau, and Tonga. CEDAW is essential now more than ever because despite the strides we've made, women and girls still do not have the same rights as men. Although it is not a panacea, CEDAW can be part of a national or local effort for women's equality. It has proven useful in judicial systems around the world, offering women increased protection and helping put perpetrators behind bars. In the US, where domestic violence and gender discrimination in the workplace are so prevalent, CEDAW could provide women's advocates additional leverage in the courts. The convention protects women and their fundamental freedoms and their political, economic, social, cultural, and civil rights. It is wide-ranging and far-reaching by design, addressing issues that include but are not limited to child marriage, sex trafficking and sex slavery, lack of access to education and political participation, rape as a weapon of war, lack of power over personal choices and bodily autonomy, and high death rates related to pregnancy and childbirth. UNA Westchester is committed to supporting and leading local advocacy for CEDAW through a grassroots efforts called Cities for CEDAW. Our chapter vice president, Marcia Brewster, and board member, Dr. Brenda Smith, were instrumental in raising our awareness, and our current board president, Yana Edwards, worked with them to make Mount Vernon the first city in New York to adopt a CEDAW resolution in 2015. The tireless efforts of these same individuals led to the mayor of White Plains making a proclamation in support of CEDAW in 2020. In 2021, Westchester County's Board of Legislators adopted a resolution that tasks the Westchester Human Rights Commission with implementing CEDAW principles in Westchester County. Wishing to see concrete action in response to this resolution, we got involved, convening a CEDAW working group and sending a letter to County Executive George Latimer, urging him to form an oversight body to move CEDAW forward in Westchester County. We continue to follow up with his staff to ensure this essential next step stays in the foreground. While we're working hard at the local level, UNA Westchester is also supporting the work of the Ratify movement, an inspiring effort to ratify CEDAW at the national level in the United States. UNA San Francisco is leading the charge, and we encourage you to engage with them and learn from their example. Wherever you are in the world, you can educate yourself about CEDAW and its role in your community. And if you discover a need, you can become an advocate. Please take a moment and reflect on what you know about the way women and girls are treated in our society. Now ask yourself, could we do better? If you think so, and you want to get involved, please take advantage of some of the resources I'll share in the chat, and please use your voice. If I can do anything to support you and your work, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Thank you very much for your time.
Nicole, thank you so much for sharing your story about advocacy for women and girls. To our viewers, if you have more specific questions about CEDAW, Cities for CEDAW, or UNA Westchester's specific success, feel free to put those in the comments and we can address them during the Q&A session. Next, it is my great pleasure to introduce David Hawley, the Assistant Director for Student and Community Engagement at North Carolina State University, so that he can share some successes in the SDGs that have happened in the NC State community.
Thank you for having me here. And thank you, Nicole, for those remarks, and I really appreciate you sharing that story. So yes, I have a few slides to share, as any good academic does. I think you can see those on the screen. So I'm here to talk with you a little bit today about what NC State University is doing to promote engagement on campus around the Sustainable Development Goals. So if you don't know, NC State is a top-ranking research-extensive university located in the Research Triangle Park of North Carolina. As a Research One land-grant university with a strong STEM focus, NC State is home to over 36,000 students who learn by doing. And this is reflected in our university's motto of think and do. In 2020, we launched a new division strategic plan entitled Global Learning for All, which uses the Sustainable Development Goals as part of our core framework. In our surveying, we found that over 70% of our students had very limited knowledge of the Sustainable Development Goals, and a similar number of them said they were not actively involved in the goals. So out of this came a comprehensive plan for SDG engagement at NC State. So we see comprehensive engagement as focusing on providing curricular, co-curricular, and high-impact experiences around the Sustainable Development Goals, which we know are all interconnected. And so that's what I'm going to talk a little bit about today, because we see the global goals as a perfect way to connect the global to the local. So on the curricular side, a group of undergraduate research students under the direction of Dr. Seth Murray undertook a project to map all 4,500 courses at NC State to the 17 Sustainable Development Goal. Yes, I said 4,500 courses. As one of the first projects of its kind at any university, we started by connecting UNESCO's learning objectives for the SDGs and conducted a keyword analysis of those objectives and mapped these to the courses taught at NC State. We created a system that allows us to go into the university course catalog and determine which courses were connected to one or more of the SDGs. We began with the undergraduate courses and recently completed our evaluation of all graduate courses. So out of this, we have an online database of courses, which you can search by goal as well as by college, which you can see some snapshots on the screen. This process also helped us to identify gaps in our course offerings, which will help us as we make decisions on adding or revising our course catalog. To promote this database, we've planned several events on campus, including the SDG Expo happening next week. One of the things I really want to point out is that this project was done by a faculty member and a group of around 6 undergraduate students over the course of a summer. So it was not something that you needed a high level of resources to do on your own campus. On the curricular side, NC State launched a campus programming initiative focused around the SDGs, with the hope of expanding co-curricular opportunities to fill in the gap between our curricular and our high-impact opportunities. So as part of this initiative, we divided the 17 goals into 4 thematic semester clusters and scheduled them to last over the next 2 academic years. So this initiative features a wide array of programs and events focused around each cluster, including a new SDG at 3 discussion series where we focus on each individual goal. We also work with units across campus to host other events, as well as realign some of our existing events and frame them within the context of the Sustainable Development Goals. So for example, we have an existing successful global film series on campus that we've realigned the themes and topics of our films to our clusters. So those are just a few of the things we are doing around the SDGs at NC State, and you can learn more about these programs at the website listed at the top of the slide. And then from the high impact side, we have several projects underway. We're in the process of mapping all of our study abroad programs to the Sustainable Development Goals. We have a searchable database of active student organizations by goal. We are promoting volunteer opportunities for each SDG, both at home and abroad. And we are working to connect with other universities and research institutions around the world by using the SDGs as a universal language. We are working to expand our faculty global engagement database, which you can see here on the screen, where faculty identify which goals they are working towards. And then we use this when working with partner universities to expand research collaborations. Then lastly, we're working with our research office on campus to incorporate identifying SDGs into our research project mapping. So these are just a few of the things that we've done here on campus and are working to expand. Again, you can dive into any of these things on our website linked at the top. And we see this as kind of a starting point to really bring the global to the local and help our students be the change that we hope to see them be. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David. As a college student myself, it was super inspiring to hear what undergrads just like me are doing all over the country, specifically at NC State. I just wanted to let the viewers know that throughout this conversation, we're actually going to be putting some information in the chat so that y'all can go ahead and get additional information. So right now, there's a comment in the chat by Claire White with some information about the USA Ratify movement, as well as Nicole's contact information. So go ahead and flag that or save that information if you're interested, and we'll be putting more information in as the session continues. Next, we're going to be hearing from A.Y. Young, the UN Envoy on Youth's Young Leaders on the SDGs. And to get a little bit more information about A.Y., we're going to be watching a short video. So I hope that you guys are excited to see that.
Where did this come from, or why are you doing what you're doing? Like, why are you trying to change the world or bring the world together? I watched my dad change the neighborhood block by block.
Police say a Kansas City couple has reshaped community policing. They have closed more than 700.
I came from a family of people that spent their life powering change.
He's making a name for himself in the music industry and for his commitment to renewable energy.
His name is A.Y. He's one of 17 youth leaders chosen by United Nations.
A.Y. Young will perform at an inauguration ball for Biden.
A.Y. Young is a name you might want to remember because it's a name some of the biggest stars already know.
I really see my parents in what I'm doing. I get a call from the United Nations. They're telling me about these 17 goals and how they're picking me to be the leader of the youth of America.
I'm here to listen. Don't ask me questions. Tell me what to do. Give me ideas.
My mission is to kind of break down these silos, these barriers, and build bridges to power collective action by bringing everyone together.
It's going to be incredible. My work plan's in 3 different phases. I'm going to make an album powered 100% by renewable energy.
Right now, A.Y. Young is working on an album based on the 17 United Nations goals. Major stars like Tech9 and Billie Eilish will collaborate.
That's when it's special when you can come to my house and eat. Because we go way back.
There are 700 million people that are still living in poverty.
The
whole premise of your music is about collaboration
100%.
and about getting excited. It's about going across the finish line.
I don't think anyone can disagree that everyone needs to have access to energy, water, food. My belief is that everyone in the world, we're all these outlets for change.
Wow, that was powerful. Luckily, we have AY here to chat with us, as well as David and Nicole. So we're going to be transitioning into the Q&A portion of today's discussion. I'm going to start off the first question for AY. We just saw a quite moving and inspirational video talking about your story and your journey becoming an advocate and a champion for not only youth, but the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And I'm wondering, with so many accomplishments on your plate, what has defined success for you? What does success mean in terms of your journey?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, what's cracking? I'm glad to be here. This seems really awesome. Everybody's dope. I see the comment box. How you guys doing? Let's change the world. What defines success? That's a really hard question to answer because there's the personal me, like the human that has so many different, things I want to accomplish in life, since I, started even doing music. But I'll say this, a very clean answer is when I discovered 2-3 years later after I made this battery tour that there was 1 billion people, that didn't have energy. I was like, okay, well, I'll use my passion, which is music, because I think, change comes from passion. And I think we should do what we love to do every day. And I'm like, yo, I'm going to do what I love to do, but taking action every day. I'll be this outlet for change. And use my music, my concerts to send one person, one village, access energy. So every time a village, a person gets plugged in and that number goes down, you know what I'm saying? I'll feel good.
I absolutely love that. And I really love that you're taking the thing that you enjoy doing and saying, hey, I don't have to compromise my own personal passions and my own personal joy for my advocacy. Those are two things that can exist together, which I think is a really great message to young folks. You don't have to compromise the things that bring you joy and happiness in order to do your advocacy and stand up for what's right. So thank you for sharing that. As you guys are digesting this information, please feel free to continue putting questions in the chat and we'll go ahead and address those. The next question that we have comes from Holly, and it's for Nicole. And the question is there a specific reason why the US didn't ratify CEDAW? So can you provide some of that context for where the political landscape is right now?
Sure, thank you. That's a great question. So Jimmy Carter signed it in 1980, and then it got bogged down in the Senate, and it never made its way out. That's the short answer. There are a lot of reasons why people think that that's happening. Different presidents over the years have revisited it and attempted to get it ratified, but it doesn't have a broad enough support. And so if we look at how empowering women and girls could be threatening to people, that might be a way to start answering that question. But I know that the UN does not engage particularly in specific politics in a specific country, but it does come down to US politics. There are some really great resources out there. If you Google your question, why hasn't the United States ratified CEDAW? You can find a lot of really interesting articles that address it from a lot of different perspectives, and I would encourage you to do that.
All right, thank you so much, Nicole. David, we've got some questions coming in for you. I'm going to combine two questions, one from Gina and one from Shireen. How can we get this kind of project replicated in like-minded institutions? And is there information on how NC State implemented their project so that folks can replicate it in different places? So how can we do this? Is there information to help us? And are you producing any of that information? Are you writing a roadmap or anything like that?
Absolutely. Thank you for that question. So yes, our first priority was rolling out the database itself and getting this information in the hands of our students as they're right now actually starting to enroll for fall classes. We have started building that out. So if you go to the website that was posted, you might have to scroll up, but global.ncsu.edu/SDG. So on that page, there's a little box that says the SDG course inventory. And at the bottom of that page, we've begun building out kind of a description about that inventory itself. So there's a read more, there's a video that you can watch, there's a brief presentation, there's an in-depth video. So we have started putting that information on there. And our next step, as we've got kind of the big portion underway, is to start putting together more information, because we want universities to replicate this. A lot of the work that we had to do, we were the first ones to do it. So building out those kind of those keywords and how to do it and making the connections were something that was brand new. But now that we've done that work, we do want to share that. So check out that website, but I'm also happy to connect if you have a motivated faculty or staff member on campus to connect you directly with the team that's did this project on campus.
Thank you, David, so much. Hopefully those resources will be helpful to other institutions who are hoping to integrate similar projects on their campuses. The next question we have is for AY, and it's from Mark. What can we do as artists or creatives like you to boost efforts on implementing SDG actions?
Yeah, what can we do as artists and creatives? I mean, there's a million things you can do as an individual, as a person, as a human. I talk about everyone in the world, everything being an outlet for change, right? And we can all do two things as outlets. We can, one, take an action, you know what I'm saying? And the other thing is a power support change, right? So for a kid in high school or something going to prom, maybe taking a sustainable action might be, I'm gonna carpool to prom. You know what I'm saying? Now he just did it. I think it's all about taking an action every day. I think it's consistent. People wonder how I built the battery tour. I was doing 8 to 10 hour shows every single day. So as an artist, maybe you put the message in the song. I went to some concert 2 years ago or something, and they were all hyped about this artist because it was like a sustainable idea of a vision of a show. And the guy got on there, was like boots and butts and that, right? It's like maybe the message of the song could do, right? And then of course there's always steps that you can take. There's organizations like Ocean and Global, Reverb, right? My partner's there, that can help touring artists, if you're doing that, figure out how to do it more sustainably, etc. Man, but there's so many things you can do, and as long as you do it every day, you take a step every day. That's being an outlet. That's getting the world plugged in and power and change. That's what you should be doing, bro.
Thank you, AY. I know as a Global Goals ambassador myself, something that I always try to make sure folks know is the best way to become an advocate for the SDGs or get somebody else to become an advocate is making sure that they understand how the Sustainable Development Goals influence their own personal lives and their own communities. It's a lot easier to get somebody invested and excited about these goals if they realize it's not just things that are happening on the global scale and on the international level, but things that are impacting them and their neighbors and their friends and people just like them. So making sure that they have that personal connection, like you were talking about, really does make a difference and makes an impact. And when creatives can talk about that, it makes the world of difference. So thank you. The next question that we have is back to David. And this question is from Bob. What other universities are putting a focus on the SDGs in the US? So do you know of any partner institutions that are doing similar projects to the one that you did at NC State?
Yeah, so there's been a couple of them that have undertaken various forms of course mapping. And I don't want to leave, I'm hesitant to mention specific ones because I don't want to leave anybody out. I know Carnegie Mellon has presented, as well as UC Berkeley, are two that the United Nations Academic Impact has a workshop series. So if you're interested from the university level, I encourage you to check out those workshops. And they're presenting kind of best case or examples of universities that are doing things. So what we did, I think, was very unique in the course mapping, but there's universities all over the world that are working with that. Another resource that I would encourage you to check out is the University Global Coalition. And that's a coalition of universities around the globe that are working to advance the SDGs on campuses and sharing information And in fact, universities around the world that are members of the University Global Coalition are celebrating next week as Sustainable Development Goals Action and Awareness Week on campus. So SDG Action and Awareness Week is coming up next week. So this was perfect time to talk about it. And we have a lot of things that are going on campus that the University Global Coalition is helping us to organize.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you to David, AY, and Nicole for sharing your own personal stories and expertise with the group. Unfortunately, we're coming to the end of our session, so we have to wrap things up quite quickly. This marks the end of the question and answer portion of today's discussion. I hope that y'all all had an opportunity to understand how the SDGs are relevant on an individual personal level, on the community level, and on the larger federal and international level as it relates to different advocacy projects and organizing efforts that people are successfully doing all across the globe as partners with UNA. We're going to leave you with a small video so that you can kind of leave on an inspiring note, but thank you so much for participating in this session, asking questions in the chat, and being open-minded throughout the duration of this conversation.
We've got to come together now. Oh, we've got to come together now. Oh, we've got to. Hey, Mr. Look who's made a mind up. And now I can't find the reasons not to give up. Beaches, leaders, dreamers, let's go. They always take the right away. See, I don't like it anymore than you do. But in their ignorance, that bliss is for. So it's about time, be humble and realize that we are one and the same, unique and one of a kind. Cause by the days come ahead when we join together, push your best foot forward, go and make an effort. This is AY, I spoke to Akon, Marvin Gaye, we in the grapevine. Let's have a great time. Influence great mind, I'm trying to paint my version of Picasso. This is colossal, so they always take the right away. Leave the bell and let me say, we can change the world. Sing it out right now, we're talking. We can change the world. Black rock, sing it out, everybody say, we can change the world. We got to come together now. The wind and stormy weather. Oh, we've got to go